Welcome to Speaking of Grace, the weekly message podcast from the Whole Life Church in Orlando, Florida. We're a multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multi-generational congregation committed to our mission of loving people into a lifelong friendship with God. We are committed to our vision of being a church without walls, fully engaged in serving the people of our community. Thank you for joining us as we continue Speaking of Grace.
Memorial Day has always meant something a little bit different for me since I covered the military as a reporter 20 plus years ago. I did that while living on Guam, and we had a number of military units that were stationed there that would deploy from there. And I really came to respect our uniformed military members and what they do. One memory that sticks out to me is going to watch a unit return to the island after having been deployed for 6 months. And if you've never been at one of those before, it is it's profound. Because what you see is women and men returning after being gone from 6 months to meet children that had been born, that they were not there for. Children that were only 1 or 2 years old and don't recognize them. Children that do remember their parents and burst into tears as soon as they see them, and it's just one of the more touching things to see them run to their parent. And you realize the sacrifice that our service members make and that their families make. By definition, sacrifice means that you've had to give something up important. A sacrifice requires that you give something that's important to you so that somebody else can have something. Probably the moment that really sticks out for me was on my birthday, January 7, 2005. We were having a party, and I got a message on my phone as the reporter covering the military that a submarine that had deployed from Guam had hit an undersea mountain. It was the USS San Francisco. You can look it up. And one person had been killed, Joseph Allen Ashley, machinist mate, second class. And I just want to say his name one more time. It's been 21 years. Joseph Allen Ashley gave his life for his country. Not in war, but because he was prepared and willing to be a part of something to protect us. And truly it was miraculous that submarine was able to resurface. It was an incredible feat that the captain was able to pull that off. Why did they hit an undersea mountain? It hadn't been mapped. As you might not be surprised, the Pacific Ocean is a very large place, and not everything is mapped, and they were deploying. And they went into an area where they didn't know that was at, and that's what happened. And I remember attending Joseph's memorial service on the base. Nearly every single sailor that attended was splinted or stitched up because nearly everybody on that sub had been injured pretty severely. And I remember watching the family grieve, the sailors grieve, and really remembering the cost that our military members pay. And so this Memorial Day, I just want to take a moment and just encourage you. You may or may not agree with the wars that are happening right now or that have happened in the past. But what I hope you'll take a moment to do is respect the people who have put their lives on the line for us in this country. I hope you'll take a moment over the weekend to stop the barbecue and just for a moment think of somebody. If you know of somebody who died in service, take a moment and think about them. Remember them. Be grateful for them. That's what I'll be doing on Monday. I'll be thinking about Joseph, Alan, Ashley. Today I want to talk to you about not forgetting the people who have sacrificed for you. It is an easy thing in life to take a gift, be grateful for a moment, and then move on. And sometimes I think when we celebrate holidays like Memorial Day, we kind of quickly gloss over what it stands for and just move on to the enjoyable parts of it. And that's that way in life, right? For a number of reasons, sometimes we tend not to think about the people who have sacrificed for us. Sometimes it makes us feel a little guilty. I feel bad that person did that for me. I'm grateful, but it makes me feel a little weird that they did that for me. Sometimes it's also there are complex feelings about that person. Maybe that person's also done some things that weren't great. And so when we start thinking about the people that have sacrificed us for us, sometimes we don't always remember as we should. I want to talk to you today about why I think it's important that on this Memorial Day that we do that. And I want to start off by telling you about a guy who sacrificed for his country and was forgotten. You're going to think, Ken, you don't know what you're talking about. Gideon wasn't forgotten. Well, let me tell you why he was. If you're not familiar with the story of Gideon, it starts in Judges chapter 6. You can go and read the whole story yourself. I'm just going to gloss over it very quickly. But basically, the Israelites were being oppressed. Their country had been conquered and was being oppressed by the Midianite nation. And it was a rough time for the Israelites. And God shows up to Gideon and says, congratulations, you're a strong, brave man. You're going to go ahead and free the Israelites from the power of the Midianites. And Gideon says, I don't think you know who you're talking to, because my family is the least of the families in our clan, and I'm the youngest kid. So perhaps you got the wrong address. And God said, nope, I know exactly who I've picked. It's you. I want you to go do it. And Gideon, I can relate to Gideon because Gideon's like, I think I really need to be sure about this. And he tests God in a number of different ways. But finally, he believes God. And God tells him, hey, just for starters, I want you to tear down the idol that your dad has here in your town. And Gideon, this is not a small thing. To do that's a death sentence. You can be put to death for that. And Gideon's scared, and the Bible actually goes out of its way to say, because he was scared, he didn't do it during the daytime. He got a bunch of his servants together, and at night, they went and did it then. But when everybody woke up in the morning, they saw their idol torn down. They knew that something had happened. They figured out that it was Gideon who had done it, and they said, all right, time to die. You can't disrespect the God that way. You're going to die. And fortunately for Gideon, his dad stood up for him and stopped that from happening. But I say that too because I want you to know that Gideon literally put his life on the line. Whether he was super brave about how he went about doing it or not, he still knew the consequences and did it anyway. And then God puts him to the real big one. This is where he's told to go and overthrow the Midianites. And the Midianites have gathered their army, which the Bible says was like the grains of sand on the seashore. That's a lot of people. And God says, you got too many people. And finally, God whittles it down to it's only 300 people left. And he said, and God tells you, I just don't want you to be confused. If you had more people than that, you might think it was you that, you had something to do with it. And I want to be very clear, it's me. And sure enough, through God's power, these 300 men plus Gideon overthrow the Midianites. But even after they win a significant battle, as they're chasing the army after that, The other people in the towns, there are people like, oh, we're not going to help you until you've really gotten the leaders. How do we know whether you're really going to do this? And so he continually is not getting support or help. There's not gratitude. There's not an appreciation for the sacrifice. It's like, well, you go sacrifice, and if you get it all taken care of, then we'll help you. And he was understandably frustrated. It's a complicated story. Read it for yourself. And when it's all said and done, this great victory comes through God. Because Gideon trusts God and puts his faith in him. And by the way, when I say he put his faith in him, he put his faith in God the same way that you and I often do, very, very fearfully. And that's why I love the Bible, because it doesn't hide the problematic parts of the people in it. So Gideon accomplishes this great victory. And he's kind of, at the end of it, he's kind of rewarded. After that happens, they're like, okay, you need to be our leader, and we're going to go ahead and do nice things for you. And they do nice things for him. And the latter part of Gideon's life is a little bit problematic here and there. But there's an interesting passage that kind of brings Gideon's life to an end. And it says this: as soon as Gideon died, the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping the images of Baal, making Baal Berith their god. They forgot the Lord their God, who had rescued them from all their enemies surrounding them, nor did they show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, despite all the good things he had done for Israel. Do you see that? They forgot the Lord their God. They forgot the person who had created the victory for them. And they also forget the good that Gideon had done. And you think, okay, well, that's a bummer. Everybody deserves to be remembered who's done something good. But there are real consequences to them not remembering and not showing loyalty. Literally what happens is Israel participates in the murder of all of Gideon's sons except for one. And I want to suggest to you that was a consequence of not remembering. Read the story for yourself. Make sure I'm not making up. Judges 6 through 8. And then you can read into 9 where it talks about this. Remembering people's sacrifice matters. The Bible is very insistent. Remember your leaders who taught you the word of God. Think of all the good things that have come from their lives and follow the example of their faith. The Bible encourages over and over for us to remember the people who have sacrificed for us. Don't you remember, dear brothers and sisters, how hard we worked among you, how we sacrificed for you? Night and day we toiled to earn a living so that we would not be a burden to any of you as you preach God's good news to you. So, the Bible says that we should remember. That's good enough. We can be done with this sermon. You will remember now. Can I go ahead and break it down to why you might want to remember on a personal level? I believe when God asks us to do things, it's for actually more than just God says, well, hey, I think I want to ask you to do this because for whatever reason. I think that there are scientific reasons behind God's requests. And so I looked into, over the last little bit, I've looked into scientifically, why would it be important to remember people's sacrifice? And if you would like to go ahead and check my work, because you're a nerd, or because you love reading scientific studies, this is the science on which what I'm going to talk to you now is based. But I'm not going to be going and giving every single, so just if you want it, take a picture of it and go and then check it out for yourself. So what are the consequences, scientifically speaking, of forgetting those who sacrifice for us? The first one is one that I told you about before. It's called cognitive dissonance. When you forget somebody who has sacrificed for you, you will often start to devalue the sacrifice itself. Oh, Gideon got pretty rich off of going ahead and defeating the Midianites. He became pretty wealthy. So it was really, was it really a sacrifice? I mean, he became the leader after everything was over. Well, yeah, after he had to put everything on the line and did not know how it would turn out for sure. But we tend to do that sometimes with people, and it creates cognitive dissonance in our life. And we say, oh, it wasn't that big a sacrifice. I mean, they helped me with this, but they have a lot of money. They have a lot, yeah, they came over, but I don't think they work, so they have time to help me with that. You see what I'm saying? And so studies show that when you create this cognitive dissonance where you kind of devalue what really happened, over time it creates chronic cynicism and paranoia in your life. And it makes it nearly impossible for you to trust and accept the kindness of others. Have any of you ever run into somebody like that? No matter what you did, it was like, well, yeah, I mean. Do you want to be that kind of person? I don't. I want to be the kind of person that's truly grateful when people do things for me and that doesn't try to read let's see, what's behind all this? Because it's a frustrating thing as somebody who gives to be told, well. So the first thing that I would tell you, scientifically speaking, is that when we don't remember those who've sacrificed, it creates cognitive dissonance, which creates paranoia and cynicism in our life. The next thing that it does is it creates envy, resentment, and materialism in our life. What do I mean by that? Well, again, scientific, non-Christian studies show that individuals who have a low trait of gratitude struggle to focus on what they have been given, and instead they fixate on what they don't have. When you forget that people have sacrificed for you, you start thinking, I need, I need this, and it creates envy. It creates resentment, and it creates materialism in your life because you forget that somebody else has given you a lot and that you are blessed. And instead you think, oh, I don't have, I'm not getting as much. Somebody did that, but it's not as much as it should be, or I could have more. Again, not things that most of us want to have showing up in our life, these kind of traits. It also means that we have no psychological buffer. What do I mean by that? It means that when you're facing a crisis, instead of thinking, I remember how somebody sacrificed for me in the past, I bet you somebody will sacrifice for me to help me now. Instead of that, you think, no, I'm totally in trouble. Nobody cares about me. This crisis I'm facing, I'll never get through it because people don't help me. Family, are you as guilty as I am of finding yourself in a crisis and forgetting all the ways that God has helped you in the past? All the times God has seen you through? Do you forget about all the people who have made it possible for you to be at the place you are today? And do you forget that those same people probably will be there for you now when you're going through hardship? Scientifically speaking, when we don't remember the people who sacrificed for us, we lose the psychological buffer that says, you know what? People have been there for me in the past. They'll be there for me now. Finally, this will impact your health. When you're not grateful, when you don't remember how people have sacrificed for you, it leads you to live a life that is filled with stress. What does that do? It elevates things in your body, cortisol, that when it's always high, it creates chronic health issues in you. Scientific studies, again, show over and over and over again that people who aren't grateful, who don't remember how they've been helped, report that they don't sleep well. They have higher instances of headaches. They have more stomach problems. They have elevated blood pressure. They have that much more than people who do remember the people who have sacrificed them for them in their lives. There's another consequence when we don't remember the people who have sacrificed for us. And this one is scientifically proven, but it is one of those things that I think is just very common sense. When we don't remember the people who have sacrificed for us and we don't show gratitude, even when a person is incredibly altruistic, it is a deeply discouraging thing for them. All of us can relate to this. Have you ever done something super nice for somebody and they just kind of blew it off? and you later on they need help and you're like, oh, I know it's the right thing to do, but man, I sacrificed, I gave up, and they don't even seem like they appreciate it. So is it really worth it? Again, scientific studies show over and over that when we don't appreciate and remember the people who have sacrificed for us, it actually lowers society's willingness to sacrifice. And so that's why it's important to have days like Memorial Day. Days where we intentionally stop and say, I remember. And because I remember, I appreciate. And because I appreciate, I will let somebody know that they're appreciated. Would you all do me a favor in whatever way that you're able to think best, if that's closing your eyes, if that's looking down, if that's staring at me awkwardly, whatever it is, I would like you to stop for a moment, and I want you to think of three people that have sacrificed deeply for you. I want you to see their face. I want you to remember what they did to sacrifice for you. If you have those three people firmly in your mind, would you just gently nod your head for me? Do me a favor, if you would. Can you reach out to at least one of those people if they're still living? And say, you know, I thought about you today. I remembered what you did last week, last year, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And I want you to know that I have not forgotten, and I am grateful. Now, as Christians, we are called to something a little higher. We are called to sacrifice for the ungrateful. That's what Christ did for us. Christ did not die so that only those who are willing to accept could experience, but he died so that we could choose whether we're willing to accept his sacrifice. He died for the ungrateful as well as the grateful. And here's what I want to suggest to you today. If you are finding a hard time, if it's hard for you to want to sacrifice today, as I close, I want you to remember these words from Hebrews 6:10. For God is not unjust. He will not forget how hard you have worked for him and how you have shown your love to him by caring for other believers as you still do. Let's be like God. Let's not forget those who have sacrificed.
Hi, this is Randy McGray, podcast producer and host here at Whole Life Church. Loving people into a lifelong friendship with God is our mission at the Whole Life Church, and our podcasts are designed to help facilitate conversations that help us grow together in that pursuit. Now that you've heard the message for this week, don't forget to check out the Whole Life takeaways for this message. Swipe up in today's show notes and join the conversation. Speaking of conversations, each Wednesday morning we take a closer look at the week's message. That's right, the one you just listened to. We discuss practical ways to apply spiritual lessons and ask honest questions about the issues we face as Christians, all focused through the lens of grace. Your voice is a welcomed addition to that conversation. We encourage your thoughts and your questions by sending a voicemail or text to 407-965-1607 or send an email to podcast@wholelife.church. You can find everything podcast related on our website, wholelife.church/podcast. And plan on spending every Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning with us as we bring you the Whole Life Church inspiration you love straight into your headphones. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.